morning, everyone. I left off yesterday, this one where it asked, who's God? Do we ever really think about that? When you really think about everybody in every culture, they all got their own gods. Why are there so many gods? It's like, what is the reason behind it? And now they say the gods have not really gone away. They've simply taken, and that time is different for them, so it appears that the gods have forgotten you. But they have not. They are here. This is why you must awaken, you must ask, who are the gods? Who are these invisible forces? Who is family of light? Who is family of dark? Who is the gods of family of dark? Who are the gods of the family of light? Who are the goddesses of everyone? And who am I in this process? Like, that's pretty deep questioning. So I'm going to start on the next one, is the game of life. And we never ever really consciously think about the game of life. We grow up in our cultures, in our surroundings and everything. And we're put in school and everything, so we're basically programmed. And how do you stop and really analyze and look at different things in reality and realize what you want to choose or not choose? What do you want to be part of or not a part of? Because by the time you really start truly comprehending this for yourself, a lot of times you're 30 years old when you realize, geez, there's something way more. And we start that usually around 26. A lot of us quit drinking, changing our lives. A lot of people get married, a lot of people start new things. But at that time, it's like, well, 30 years went by and all the things you explore, you look at, you learn. But what are the real, true, deepest questions? What is the real thing you're trying to discover? Because there's something we're all trying to discover. So, the game of life. As we look at the book of Earth and turn its pages, we see many things because we exist outside of your time. We see what has slipped between the cracks and what was not in your history books. So this is the Pleiadians talking. We see what slipped into the cracks, what was not put in your history books, which, by the way, barely hold a thread of the tapestry of your rich and varied history. You may be wondering at this point, what kind of book could we interdimension travelers be viewing? We call it the book because you believe you learn from books. One of the questions we would now like to ask is this: how have you arrived at your thinking? Where do your ideas and knowledge come from? And why do you credit some knowledge and discredit others? Because that's a real thing. It's like, why do we want to believe one thing and yet we want to disprove all these other things? Open your mind as you read our words, for we speak to the library of knowledge inside of you, because we carry things in ourselves, and that knowledge, past things. That's why going inside, meditating, you can see and understand things, but people think they daydream. People blow off things. They don't want to accept or believe things. Open your mind as you read our words. For we speak to the library of knowledge inside you. It is the same library of knowledge that we call the Book of Earth, a rich and varied texture of living history. One of the greatest issues you face today is how to identify yourself. Will you believe everything that you read in your books and newspapers and view on your video, movies, and internet? Are these the reference guides for your beliefs? In the Book of Earth, there are ways to understand who you are. You were designed with purpose, and move through the heavens on a synchronistic journey, one set into motion by beings whose intelligence you cannot begin to grasp. When we have sought to understand ourselves and why we think what we think, even we have encountered forces of existence as gigantic that we pale in comparison. These builders of the universe are not vague, nebulous beings. They are a composite intelligence unified in their understanding of universal energies. They create extensions of their knowledge, bringing their knowledge into form and call you part of that knowledge of Earth. And you use or do not use the power of your mind to structure this knowledge. As you may know, energy precedes matter in form, and here on Earth your thoughts and perceptions transfer energy into form. So when we speak about calendars of time, they are convenient creations through which you can locate meanings in reality. Your mind likes division, therefore your name and label and place things in order. Your ancestors, however, had a different way of using their minds. They were far more in tune with the larger cycles of living. You live through a sequence of decades, and every time you shift a decade, it is a big deal. Your ancestors used a different counting of time. Rather than locating themselves precisely in time, they perceived time outside themselves. They lived precisely in the moment, in the now, for time was rich for them in the now. And their time opened the pages of Earth, the pages of their ancestors, the pages of living. What they chose to think and believe often came from oral tradition, the exchanging of stories, living close to the land, and through deep telepathic connections and astute awareness. A need-to-know basis created their abilities. Today you live in a world where you do not want to know, let alone need to know what is happening around you. You have abdicated the power of thinking and do not even know how thinking arose. Consider that everyone who has ever lived on Earth continues to move forwards and affect their genetic line. Generations of blood and knowledge have been passed down from one human to another. Everything every human has ever experienced is recorded in the great beings of your biological structure you call the human body, which again is greater than any computer you could ever design. As we have said, you are not capable, in all truth, of designing a machine greater than yourself. Everything you design is a mere reflection of your own greatness, and it pays to understand that, as our story unfolds, we will look through the book of your planetary tale and see where other civilizations and forms of intelligence face the same series of lessons. We will look at the path that they chose and what it taught them. Perhaps in our tales and calling forth of our cellular memory, you will know it all by the end. That is our intent. How you think and communicate is how you know yourself and how you arrive at your beliefs about yourself. Clear communication is the essence of understanding your ancestors, whether they lived 10 years or 12,000 years ago, have different modes of communication, and yet the results were similar. Whoever had the loudest voice created the belief system. The history of your world is filled with the voice of victory, the voice of power, although it was not always the voice of sanity by any means. The so-called victors often knew about the secret hidden in the mysteries of Earth and her people. Secrets passed down from antiquity. What kind of secrets could your ancestors have known? We will begin to tell you. However, you must stretch your consciousness as well to reach for this understanding. Secrets were stored in hidden stories of Earth, and in her blood. You have incarnated and experienced Earth and her records many times. Her library, her book, is even imprinted in the atmosphere. The very atmosphere that sustains you is a form of energy and intelligence. used for communication because it can store information. Actually, everything around you is energy holding the story of what you are, and you keep exchanging the very energy with your molecules. Every time you exhale, you're giving off a part of yourself, and when you inhale, you are adding something more. You live within a visual agreement where, as solid beings, you faithfully replicate the same scenarios again and again. Basically, you do not question whether or not there is another way of thinking and being. You are used to the linear, defined, and expected experience, therefore you create it. Your ancestors thought in time as part of a large cycle called the precession of the equinox, caused by the wobble of the planet on its axis, which makes the constellations of the zodiac appear to move across the heavens in the 26,000-year cycle. Who lives long enough to count time in this way, you may ask? Well, it is a good question. You may have to expand your thinking to perceive that at one time human beings lived on the earth much longer than you currently do. 300 years, or even at one time 10,000 year age spans, were not so uncommon. And a long time ago, in the book of important people, there were those who lived for a few 100,000 years. How could that be, you ask? Or why would they want to? We will come to that. For now, just imagine that it is possible. The cycle of time is counted again and again in the book of the earth. It is 26,000 year period, which is an amount of time, in your terms, for the 12 constellations of the zodiac to complete one cycle of movement across the heavens. A grand cycle of time creates one great year and contains the various ages delineated by the signs of the zodiac. Through the markings of time, you can begin to discern patterns, and patterns indicate order and purpose. In a quiet moment, imagine there is a purpose to being. Everything is designed and planned in an impeccable, synchronistic order. You are involved in it. You are not purposeless little molecules struggling in a meaningless world. You are part of a significant plan which can be seen from many different angles. The greatest of convert operators may discredit the idea of an immense plan because no matter how finely they are tuned, they cannot conceive the greater energies that design existence. Likewise, many people cannot conceive of this immense order because they lack the intent of love or goodwill at the core of their being. The universe and all you experience are inherently built on love, a love so grand that it allows evil its own reign, knowing that even within evil there is a purpose. A purpose exists in all things. Even there is never just one purpose, just as there is never one history, one calendar, or one way of interpreting anything. There are many ways to see. We ask you to imagine a book of earth. To begin to delineate the age in your mind, imagine this 26,000 year cycle divided into 12 sections, each one almost 2,200 years long. The era called the millennia at the year 2000 is based upon an agreement. Many will argue and say the third millennia date is inaccurate, and this is true. However, the date is based on a long-standing agreement, and agreement created reality. The creation of time is an agreement, and heaven comply, assisting you to use time to locate yourself in existence. Now locate yourself in the moment by noticing your breath. And then imagine you have lived many times, or imagine your ancestors who lived before you. Earth has been populated throughout the various ages. Each age has a theme, a purpose to achieve. The 12 ages have seasons, just like your 365-day year. And each age can be divided into 4, approximately 500 or 550-year slices of time where lessons are being learned. If you were to reincarnate quickly, you would have a number of lifetimes in each 500-year period. Currently, you are at the age of the Pleiadian age, one of 12 slices of time rippling with richness and purpose. You are entering the age of Aquarius, which heralds the awakening and unifying of humanity. The closing of the Pleiadian age brings forth themes of compassion and enlightenment through complete connections with the universal mind. Interesting situations occur during these times, conveying the lessons of your ancestors. Their challenges, victories, and daily living experience all resonate through time into you. As you expand your view of time, remember that knowledge is passed through the bloodline. Whether a blue blood or a red blood, the biology of your being is rich. Yet as with using a computer, you must know how to access what is there. Genetically, so much is within you that beings in the heavens have managed you for eons so that you would not be connected to all that you are. They reap their harvest from your ignorance, through your willingness to give up the power of thinking, to eagerly obey, to be on time, to die, and basically to accept being told what to do. The story that unfolds makes sense when you understand why you have come here, how long the lessons have been occurring, and where you are in this session of growth or season of growth. Excuse me. Movement through the age shifts the lessons and current civilization, bringing about opportunity necessary for gathering experience essential to their purpose. Each age has a high or low point. There is really no point in condemning one civilization and acknowledging another, because each exists for a distinct purpose. Certainly, reaching the end of one age and beginning another is momentous. Therefore, it is essential for you to understand what you face. Imagine that you can hear the tales of your ancestors as if they were alive and gathering around the fire, speaking to you of their journeys and adventures. If you remember this feeling in the quiet moment of daily living and feel these peoples rich and alive, you will know you are tapping into your own book of the earth. We use this description to capture an image, and you can use it as well, though in actuality the stories are in the ethers, for the atmosphere itself holds the records of energy. Our intention is to teach you how to read these molecules of intelligence, to discover inside yourself which buttons to push, which programs to access, and the way in which to activate your brilliant biological form. Now imagine the 12 ages, each with its own lesson. At the beginning and the end of each age, there is always an acceleration of energy that acts as a bridge between the last 200 or so years of the 2200-year age and a few hundred years into the next. Each age has a destiny of experience, a spiritual weather, so to speak. There are ages with new beginnings and ages with great blossomings, as well as ages of harvest. And then there are ages you will call winter, the ages of building spiritual conclusions, where one retreats deep inside to access the entire purpose of the experiment in living. As human beings, you enter Earth to be Earth at birth and interact with living through your family. You are drawn for many reasons to the people of your bloodline. Sometimes you have lived with them before in direct kin relationships. Other times you follow souls you are deeply connected to and move from one bloodline to another. If you were able to trace your ancestral tree back for thousands of years, you would find that as an individual you chose to pop in and out of your own bloodline. Today you are often assessed, especially by those in power, by the quality of blood that runs in your veins. One of the biggest secrets to understanding how you have arrived at your thinking process involves knowing that heavenly beings exist beyond the slice of time in which you live, and that periodically they visit you. Humans are considered to be a part of a certain celestial principality, a biological experiment available for study. As we said, we refer to your world as a library of Earth, a place where beings are created genetically in the likeness of what you call God, then set about to live within the lessons and seasons of time that are influenced by energy. Where does the influencing energy come from? Actually, this energy is gathered from your movement through the heavens, as well from the sun. Think about this. What would you do without the sun? Where would you get your food? Where would you get your ideas? Ideas are indeed transmitted in light. The modulation between light and dark and the processions with which they are rendered to your consciousness determines how you perceive reality. This concept is key to understanding how systems of consciousness are designed and how the universe and galaxy and solar system are put into place. You design games about your reality, then sell them in the stores and play them for entertainment. Actually, beings made grander than you or we are, the intelligence behind synchronized, meaningful living, create realities in the same way. Within their great blueprint of the game of life, there is always a plan. Today, intelligent waves of light energy designed as seasons of psychic weather hit the earth in an unpredictable way, all parts of the plan. The ruling families of the earth have always kept track of their bloodlines and have continued to decode their connections to the celestials who seeded them eons ago. Sometimes they understand their own reincarnational existence, however part of their mistakes has been to remain within their own particular bloodline, which then becomes bloated, electrically discharged, and devoid of light, managing much power, but with no purpose. This power seeks to hoard energy, treasures, and ultimately knowledge of existence. These bloodliners are connected to a vast invisible energy that barely any human can understand. Members of the 12 or 13 families that rule your world have a deep and secret understanding of the divisions of the 12 ages of your year. In actuality, they know that at one time the ages were divided into 13, and that by changing the way time is interpreted, slices of knowledge and experience have been cut out. That's what I always believed, that there was 13, and I think the 13th astrology one was a white spider, and there was actually 13 because it goes with the moons. I found ancient stuff on it a long time ago, and I was reading and it got me really curious, and I was trying to find more and I couldn't. And here it's talking about the 13. How you think is the focus of this lesson. You believe you learn what you know in school, or perhaps you read the newspapers every day. Your mother and father, forms of government and religious organizations all affect you. But how will you reach beyond the knowledge and information passed to you that defines your world? Your ancestors managed this because they used time differently. When we speak of the book that allows us to look through time, or our intent is to contort the way in which you view time, so that as you rebuild an image of time in your mind, you will have a new codex for exploring experience encoded in time in the cells of your being. Now each age has celestial contact, and sometimes the contact was widely acknowledged and understood, considered to be an important part of the basic system of the current civilization. Each age had a way of dealing with the realms of supernatural. If you trace history in your mind to AD 0, you will find that your calendar counting punctuates. It begins with the arrival of the beings you call Christ. Energy points at shifting of the age creates tremendous activity. The family of light who like to bring in the bridges information often arrive with their own agenda to teach. Each civilization in its age has the opportunity to exalt or to destroy itself. By choosing to be exalted on an ongoing impetus is created, teaching laws of existence that have been lost. Through destruction there is nothing left. In the book of Earth, your world exists for billions of years. The cycle of time we ask you to consider, 26,000 years, is but a small speck. Many a civilization has developed and flourished for a long time and then has disappeared itself. If you existed forever in one form, who would you be? In your three-dimensional world, it may always appear that you destroy yourself, one civilization after another. However, in the Book of Earth, any civilization can be visited and located if one knows the coordinates and uses the proper frequency. You are just learning these techniques on Earth at this time. Using technology, the manipulation and the bending of time have been secretly practiced for almost the past 100 years. Although for thousands of years, even without technology, time jumping has occurred. Those who read the mysteries and understand the hidden secrets always knew how to move through time. Sometimes only visions appeared. At other times, relocation was possible. Sometimes people vanished because they slipped into another speck of time. You do not need technology or time machines to time travel, although today governments of the world do experiment with this technology behind your backs. Much of the chaos happening in the late 20th century Earth is the result of massive shifts caused by time jumpers, moving in and out of your time looking for particular events or wanting to change probable worlds. Worlds can be changed. The Book of Earth can be changed. One can go backwards and forwards in time because everything is significant and alive, and everything affects everything else. You may wonder how there could be a Book of the Earth if it is always changing. How can there even be history in the Book of the Earth? The Book of Time can change. Well, how fixed is what you believe to be true? How fixed is the Civil War, or World War I, or Babylon, or Nebuchadnezzar's dreams? As the constellations pass overhead in what is called the zodiacal belt, you encounter different energies. Whenever an age shifts, one is unique. One of the unique opportunities is the Earth to transmit rather than to receive energy frequencies. Those coming to the Earth now are jumping time and entering because they know a vast change will soon occur on how you use energy. Everyone is fighting to control, anxious to see who will win. Will you as humans step gracefully into your power, understanding the great lessons the Book of Earth embodies? We come through time to share the lessons we have learned, that reality mirrors itself. The war creates war. Love creates love. That withholding energy for power creates separation, and separation creates illness. You cannot be separated from the whole, so in some way you must unite. All shifts of ages have created a bridge of energy sharing the accumulation of one age with the next. Benchmark points of ages are punctuated by speaking of primary events. Because you are at the end of an age, perhaps you are wondering what the primary event will be. You are in the process of building a wave of revolutionary energy in relationship to your mind and how you think. 2,000 years ago, Family of Light taught an energy of truth and love and brought forth the message, as you think, so shall it be. The records of Family of Light were later compiled, rearranged, and portrayed as a life of a single character, Jesus Christ. You did not have a clear, precise picture in your history books of who lived at that time. People of great power walked the lands and taught the truth of the vibrations of love as well. They helped people recognize the tyranny they lived under. Tyranny uses the tools of fear to control you. One of the ongoing tests you face from age to another, from one season to another, and truly from one moment to the next, is understanding fear. Why you buy into any version of fear. It can become your experience because your molecules are intelligent and your energy responds to the predominant feelings in your being. The focus of your mind is exactly what gives the order to create what you are experiencing. Even though your ancestors approached reality from a different point of view, they too had to pass the test of fear, as you shall in the days ahead. Your ancestors also utilized the body in a very different way from you because they used the whole brain. As you may know, the right side of your brain is connected with the left side of your body, and it is the basis of an unbound energy of intuition and creativity. The left side of your brain, which is the side almost employed during the last 2,000 years, is slowly being developed for logic. 2,000 years ago marked the end of cyclical living. Over the next few hundred years, into the beginning of the Pleiadian age, there were those who still lived by cycles and talked with gods and understood the god as friendly and often kind beings. They had retained their beliefs from the preceding age of Aries, dominated by big empires which strove to capture the gods in forms by creating elaborate stationaries and buildings, large architectural structures to tribute to these beings. These people were versed in abstract thinking as well as understanding its linear components. They also understood the energy the Egyptians embodied in the idea of the Ka, the spirit that speaks to you as your double and other self. When the knowledge of cyclical living began to change, people lost touch with the significance of life. They forgot about the spiritual seasons and the life as purpose. The bridge into the first century involved living the truth of love. There was a great battle for truth then, just as there is today. Whose truth would it be? The Roman Empire was a ruling order of the day, and its purpose was the unification of two powerful forces, the management of spirit and the governing of existence. In order to truly grasp an understanding of the history and your thinking process, you must factor in the invisible and consider that goddess and pagan cultures understood. And so-called gods are many and have had many names. The Christian Church, incorporated into the Roman Empire, began its tyranny of your minds by doing out spiritual truths, and those in authority then began to change history and rewrite the books. The gods were renamed in their activities devoid of benefits. They were given attributes of Satan, fear, and evil. The new thought forms, supposedly based on love, was in actuality an energy designed to control you. Once again, you gave your power to think over to the new authority, and fear became more dominant than love. This has happened to each of you over and over again. You forget to love. The management of mind becomes dominant in order to rule the soul, spirit, energy of the people, and to shift the shifts occur from whole brain thinking, which values intellectual and intuition, to intellectual thinking only. In the last 2,000 years, you have slowly and completely given away your power. First, by allowing others to tell you what to think, and secondly, by accepting the dictate that your connection to spirit could only be maintained through an organization, an intermediary. Religious ideas become compromised of spiritual knowledge and were appropriated by the state. Local pagans, keepers of seasons and cycles, keepers of whole knowledge, and the goddess were compromised. 2,000 years ago, when modern-day management of mind began, a great opportunity for love existed. There has always been an invisible frequency battle for the influence of how the experiment of humans will be conducted and conveyed, because there are those who live off the frequency you provide or produce. What are these frequencies, you may ask? Everything you do in every moment of your life produces a frequency. Now think about this then, feel it. Everything you do in every moment of your life produces a frequency. Why? Because you're biological beings designed to be frequency generators, and your emotions are the tuning key. You have feelings about everything, whether you want to admit them or not. Even though many of you never express your feelings, they still exist in accumulative patterns stored in the cells of your being and in your blood, just as they have in the lives of all your ancestors. The patterns radiate out from you in electromagnetic waves and have signals that call to you what you put out. You are connected to something bigger than yourself. From the beginning of time, men and women have spoken with the spirits because the gods were friendly and have always been around. It is only recently the gods have been managed and kept from you. At the beginning of the Piscean age, it was decreed that only certain people could talk to God, that God was not available for everyone except through offerings of money, through prayer, or through the priests and popes. That a dark age then came over the land, an age of sickness, of ignorance, and great fear. The second 500-year period in the 2000 test of time was very dark. However, when there is dark, there is light, and as light dawned, many people began to awaken. At the beginning of the Middle Ages, from 80,000 to approximately 1500, new ideas were brought forth. An awakening of human consciousness occurred once again. However, before this new freedom of thought could take hold, there was a last eruption of darkness, the Inquisition, which was filled with killing and destruction. It was initiated by those who wanted to control the abode of the deity and how it could be reached. They also wanted to limit people's thinking. If you did not think according to what was correct, you were taken in the night and killed. There were few people then, so it was easier to manage them. Your ancestors lived with fear of knowing secrets and of breaking the rules for what was officially permitted. There were very few who would stand forwards and say, the empire is naked, he wears no clothes, or the emperor is naked, and he wears no clothes. Fear was so great in frequency around the earth that whenever someone did speak out, everyone else moved into fear instead of love. A lesson for living in your time will be similar. When truth-sayers have the courage to say the emperor is wearing no clothes, whether you agree with their point of view or not, send them love. They are to be acknowledged for speaking their truths. It is important to speak your truth, not to convince anyone else of it. Everyone must make up their own mind. Please remember, one of the greatest lessons you have and are learning, as we see it in the Book of Earth, is to realize that you have given over the power of thinking and have forgotten how to think for yourself. You live now in boxes and follow calendars and think of the moment that was once before you and is forever gone. You erase yourself as you move faster and faster into the future of purposeless living. Family of Light knows that humankind is immersed in the race towards change, an experiment you must all participate in by changing yourselves. For those of you who are open to ideas and who can hear the message we convey, remember it is not necessary to convert or preach. Simply know in the core of your being that you are all riding the arriving wave of change. Do your best to keep your wits about you. Make your own decisions. Know what you want. Keep yourself open to the greatest mysteries, and know that no matter how much you know, it is still only a few pages in the great book of existence. We see that the late 20th century Earth is a destiny point, and there is a sense of urgency that we and many others feel about this location in time. From your point of view, the point expanded across what you call many years, As we view your world, we see a short period of time actually encapsulated in about 25 of your years, from 1987 to 2012. That passes like a nanosecond and is hardly detectable in the vastness of all of that. Of course, it's easy to jump to Babylon. It exists for ages. Many other cultures, kingdoms, and civilizations had greater longevity, not here one moment and gone the next. You, however, are living in a time when everything is fragmented, separated, unconnected, when the winds of time are wispy and the fibers are not as thick. There were fewer civilizations that thought systems in your ancestral days, fewer bloodlines and fewer purposes. The experiment was more controlled. Certainly the experiment was always focused on areas called the Middle East, known as the Fertile Crescent, which is filled with ancient structures. The pyramids located in Egypt were used as sound devices to communicate with heaven. They were also used as weights to balance the electromagnetic forces, actually to create an acupuncture point of energy into the Earth's grid. The Great Pyramid does not exist above the ground only. Below ground, the structure pierces the Earth, so cosmic energies can be transmitted and grounded from one age to another. The Great Pyramid, as you presently know it, has been around for a long time, records the stories from your modern historians, need of course to be reconsidered. All of the ancient structures built in stone had a celestial influence and are far more ancient and have greater purpose than your history books tell you. As you consider the knowledge we share with you, perhaps you will find yourself undertaking tasks that do not always make sense. You may seek to track down your roots by visiting sacred sites, or perhaps Egypt has called many of you back to its corridors. You would actually be called to the corridor of the old Persian Empire, the area of Iran and Iraq, if you could get in. Over the last few decades, great trouble has been brewing there to keep you from entering. It is the key area in the development of human consciousness as part of the Fertile Crescent, where the gods played their games and implemented their experiments. You're still being watched to see how you'll create your reality. Will you destroy yourselves? Will you create a new world? What will you figure out? Will you look outside the parameters of your finely tuned perceptions, or will you live in the bubble of ignorance, believing everything that is told to you? You are observed and studied over time, and because you reincarnate again and again, you propagate yourself, and you eventually trap yourself in this process. There are beings who observe you, to whom 26,000 years is 1 year in your term. 1 year. See if you can imagine those who are grander than yourself, beings who watch you, who meddle with and influence you in order to understand and learn from you. When you think of 26,000 years being 1 year in your experience, what then is 25-year period we speak of, starting in the late 20th century Earth? How can they find it? How do we find it? To you, it may seem as if 25 years is a long time. To many, it is merely a blink of an eye, according to the Book of Earth. As we scan the pages backwards and forwards to understand you and ourselves, 25-year period is a signifier. It is unique because it has more threads of time and probabilities running into it than any other time anywhere in existence. We have asked you to consider how you arrived at your thinking. Certainly by now you may already be questioning what you have learned in school, what has been purported as important to know. Your challenge is to re-explore history as you know it and to look at life from a larger point of view. Use the cells of your being, the sound of living, the earth herself, to stimulate you. Step outside the abode of the deity and tell you what to think, and step into the abode of yourself. Learn how to think and then decide what you want to believe. This takes courage, however, you are not alone. The bridge from one age to another is always bustling with tremendous activity. As electromagnetic energy changes, the Earth's magnetic field is becoming weaker. Physical and mental structures are not held in place in the same way. When the magnetic field weakens, chaos occurs. How you handle chaos is another major test. What you do as reality is scrambled will determine your ongoing experience. One of the greatest reasons why you, as a family of light, are here is to experience living from your own point of view. Your new interpretation is existence. Running through every cell of your being will be transmitted from your auric field and affect the living biological sphere of the Earth. Ideally, you will transmit a new frequency into existence. At the end of an age, an accumulation of knowledge is transmitted. So what will you transmit? We asked you earlier, what would you count as your victories? Imagine that you make contact with beings who dwell beyond time. Imagine that they ask you to define yourself and tell them what you think you know about yourself. What would you say? What book would you give them to put in the Galactic Library offers as contribution? Think about it. Would be a book about the interventions. Oh, a few more pages and I should be done this. That was unexpected. Okay. Books about inventions from the last 50 years or from the last decade of centuries. What would be the focus of importance? Anything you come up with, we would say, limits you in some way. This exercise will help you understand where thinking came from and why you think what you do. Then perhaps you will rethink yourself. And this is where I always tell you, you need to think. You need to use this. And people like saying all kinds of things, but people are afraid to think. People are afraid to step out and just be themselves. Perhaps with the aid of your ancestors, you can understand the age of time and cycles of influence that vie for your attention and your biological energy, which you emit as emotions. Perhaps you will begin to understand that your energy is being harvested and others watch you from moment to moment. We said earlier the gods have taken a nap. That's only from your point of view. Someone is always connected and around. When you vibrate with fear, you draw energies to you of that vibration. We ask you all to consider, without guilt, shame, or blame, how much fear do you produce in the world? Now imagine that the vibrations you sent out, without your even thinking about it, attracts a form of life capable of influencing you, to keep you producing the same vibration. Without the fear, these energies would have to leave because they do not resonate with love. In the bigger pictures in the Book of Earth, as the pages unfold, we see time and time again, no matter which empire is in charge, Persian, Roman, Greek, great Alexander stepping forwards to conquer the world, they are all based on fear and killing. Today, the New World Order has a chance to be another Roman Empire. The Roman Empire merged with Christianity in early centuries in the era and modulated the truths of the family of life to fit their political agenda. Will those of you who are the bringers of truth today modulate your truth to be one with the New World Order? The ancient Christians were divided, far from being unified. They were diversified in their teachings. Some believed that there was more than one God, while others believed in only one. We say if there is one God, it is love. Love can personify itself in many ways. The grandness and intelligence of love, which you call creator, accepts all things. It does not condemn what you call God or goddess for being rambunctious or for making and destroying life. Because love itself, the creator, is constantly created and destroyed. In the bigger picture, everything is imprinted with an ongoing intelligence and nothing is ever really destroyed. As you rethink yourself, think about the earth and the destruction taking place today. Your biosphere, your physical being, your backyards, fields, meadows are in jeopardy. The places where children used to play and run by streams, spending the afternoon under trees studying clouds as they pass through the sky, are slowly disappearing. Once squirrels and birds were valued, now they are feared as germ-infesting creatures. Magic was once alive with the selling of linear thinking and the erasing of the cyclical meanings of existence. Magic has vanished. It vanished with the burning of the witches. They were the last brave ones to carry forth the teachings. To bring up witches may raise many hackles. There are as many versions of witch stories as there are versions of truth. Many so-called witches were actually those who defied the ultimate tyranny of minds called religious truth. They still spoke to the land like the ancient pagans and understood the herbs as medicine. They practiced natural healing remedies and knew how to live in the time of darkness. They dared to reach into the ethers, into the realms of spirit, and communicate with them. They were called coveters with the devil. So they were taken from their homes and their villages and burned publicly. A great fear spread through the land of the Inquisition, had many methods of torture. However, every age always has its renegades, those who quietly know how to blend in and play the game, who understand that in every moment of living there is a choice, low road, middle road, high road. The quality of love or fear you carry into each moment determines which road you travel. Even in the darkest of times, those who understand frequency of love know how to shroud themselves, and so the mysteries of cycle living were carried forth. This was certainly not the government or religious organizations' thought. People were told they needed to be governed. They were not capable of talking with God personally and needed intermediaries. That if they were communicating directly, they must be possessed by the devil. The devil the devil's favorite subjects were women, of course, because women still had vicissitude and intuitive side of the brain from the pagan days. Try as they would to excise cyclical knowledge and implant linear thinking, women simply could not make the shift for many reasons. They noticed that their bleeding time was on a cycle that followed the moon's as it changed and passed through its sphere every 28 to 29 days. Their whole way of living and bringing life forth was based on cycle that contradicted the existence of linear time, meaningless world. The removal of magic and the whole living transpired during the third 500-year period of the Pleiadian age, in the time approximately 1,000 to 1,500 years. As we said, as an age unfolds, each quarter section of age offers lessons. By the beginning of the last quarter of the Pleiadian age, fear seemed to be predominant feelings for the common person. However, in this same quarter, from about 1500 to the present, the higher echelon of society experienced an enlivening of their spirit. Health and dietary practices changed, and people began to reform their old beliefs. The churches, governments no longer stood as ultimate authorities where heretics were once burned at the stake. An age of enlightenment, an age of reason began. But what would the reason bring? Looking at the last quarter of the Pleiadian age, you can see the major acceleration of information distributed among the masses. A great population explosion occurred. People shifted from the constricted, prescribed views of the flat earth to seeing the world as a globe, a world that had another side, a world that held possibilities. Whenever new territories open, whether thousands of years ago or tomorrow in your time, many want to advertise their beliefs there, and remember, your beliefs are based on a very simple choice, fear or love. As the new world began to be developed, the old world order, the Roman Empire, was already 1,000 years dead and gone. The New World was discovered by European explorers, but it certainly was not new. There were people here who kept the ancient stories hidden, people who dispersed during the Great Migration after the Tower of Babel. They brought with them the knowledge they held from the time of the gods and translated it into their own words. In time, their books were dispersed all over the globe. In retrospect, it can be seen that it was only the Western world, a product of the Roman Empire, Christianity, and a certain mode of thinking, who did not understand that the world was round. They thought it was flat because it is what they were told. Many of the challenges of the ages resurrected themselves today in your day-to-day living. At the beginning of the last quarter, pointed around 1500 AD, people were challenged with accepting the worldview that instantly changed the agreed mode of living, as much of the church wanted to burn heretics like Galileo and Copernicus, who dared to challenge its ideas. They did not burn Columbus because they could not make the roundness of the world go away. Perhaps the church and the ancient authorities could tell people what to think about the heavens. However, they could no longer promote the belief that people lived in an isolated, meaningless, fearful world where if you walked too far, you might fall into the devil's territory. Once again, the Bridge of Freedom had opportunity to build itself. But what was built during this period, witches were still being burned for speaking to plants and casting spells, for basically using their will and intent to have reality meet their needs. The witches and the ancients understood many things about the body. Churches and governments wanted the knowledge about the body taught. As a result, people did not bathe and wear many clothes and were terrified, and it is a wonder why they reproduced. There were always the renegades, as we have said, who did not buy the official stories, but who played the game. Instead, they believed what they wanted to believe, and they survived. In the most toxic and volatile of times, people always survived. Plagues moved over Europe's continent many times in the last 2,000 years, decimating millions and millions of people. At times, over half, maybe 2/3 of the population was wiped out. Perhaps as you consider our perspective of the Book of Earth, you will notice that you face some of the same dilemmas today. The Fertile Crescent of Sumeria to Egypt, the Mediterranean, and Europe were areas of God chose their experiments because many different cultures could be placed in close proximity and easily monitored. Natural boundaries of mountains, deserts, bodies of water kept the humans separated. An energy grid was opened using the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids, as well as many other structures that sprang up in those areas over the eons. In actuality, the entire area is a doorway into your world, a doorway where the ancient ones found a space, which you can think of perhaps in terms of buying a space on the internet, a space in virtual reality. The creation of civilizations around Sumeria and the surrounding areas was like buying a space in virtual reality of Earth, where an experiment could be seated, a place where the gods could put their sight and establish the commerce, business, and experiencing of living. The gods have interesting capabilities. Your ancestors were telepathically linked to them because they were whole-brained, in tune with a cyclical living, the ability to move energy around their bodies. At the beginning of the Pleiadian age, thinking began to crystallize, solidify the human experience, leading to greater and greater separation. Finally, during the past 500 years, the idea arose that you are mechanized beings. Descartes and Darwin delineated a separate existence, defining life as isolated, compartmentalized, significant to itself perhaps, yet a marvel of meaningless wonder. A mass marketing of meaningless separation took hold, not only separating you from God, but from nature as well, achieving the complete control of the mind. A similar story has happened all over the globe. Perhaps those in Africa can track a different timeline. However, their history portrays the giving away of their power to authority, giving up love, choosing war, and then losing everything. In the final isolation, disease runs rapid. South America has little different stories with the same issue. There is the aristocracy and the common man are vastly separated by the hierarchy with immense resources, but no unification of purpose. Secrecy and misuse of energy rule these areas today, and people are afraid to claim their power. Asian continent's one of the greatest experiences of mind control ever in the vast experiment of China. How do people think? They are told what to think. Families are allowed to have one child and one child only. What can they do? There are 1 billion people, 1/5 of our planet's population. A potential grassroots movement larger than any other made complacent. Oh, indeed, have human beings been sold such limitations? When we look at the Book of Earth, we see again and again there have been those who would speak the truth. Often they are not burned at the stake, they are laughed at. You must begin to understand the energy at your quarter point and the last 2,000 years. The lessons of the ages at the quarter section serve a punctuation point in time. Now that you are removed from those times, perhaps you can understand that you live for the purpose and that the heavens offer you energetic opportunities to become with yourselves. Understanding this and perhaps who you are, the history of your world then begins to make more sense. We again remind you to rethink yourself and to use the power of your mind to assess the richness of your ancestors and your inheritance. Look around and see what you have created and know that it means more than you attribute it to. The bridge of the 21st century will be built in your mind. The questions are, whose mind is it? Who owns your mind? Who battles for your mind? Whose veil is the control for thinking? Contemplate these ideas as we explore more of the family secret, the secret inside the self, the secret miracles the body will perform using the power of the will as we unlock the secrets of blood, sexuality, healing, creating, living. Living is being and being is knowing that you are connected. It is this that you carry over the bridge, the idea that you live in a purposeful and significant and connected world. Your great inheritance. When we speak to you about the great book of Earth, we want you to understand the source of these stories, which are alive and rich, is stored in the annals of your genes. If only you could read them. So do not feel that we have access to knowledge that will forever be kept from you. Everything you want to know can be discovered if you only learn to utilize the great biology being that you are. Now that you have been reading our stories and tales of your history, you may have noticed that we jump around and we say a little bit here and a little bit there. This is done so you will not think of yourself your past unfolding in a linear line. We want you to discover you have been and who your ancestors are in a different way, in a way that may appear to be random and scattered. When we look at the Book of Earth and we see the key juncture points where bridges are always built during the shiftings of ages, you are at one of these points. It is by understanding your physical being, your biological structure, that you will be able to access the same vistas and points of view that we have. We have pointed to your ancestors, suggesting they have faced many trials and tribulations. That is important for you to explore your family tree as you learn more about your identity, about what you value and who you think you are. Your potential to grow within yourself is taken from the basic founding materials of your true ancestry. Part of the opportunity afforded you in the shifts from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius is the movement from linear thinking to multidimensional living. If you were instantaneously thrust from one era to another, it would be quite a shock to your nervous system. Yet within the bloodline of your ancestral lineage is the ability to shift your reality by shifting your perceptions. In the late 20th century Earth, you are just rediscovering psychic phenomena, the PSI factor, as you call it, which the pagans and witches knew as spirit or ether. Religious leaders who organize and sold their versions of God to you have always maintained that psychic powers were of the devil because they did not want people to acquire this power. Over time, your ancestors chose fear and belief in the authorities outside themselves, dedicating not only thinking but common sense as well. All of this knowledge is stored in your bloodline. In like manner, your Bible claims that mankind, or humankind, was created by the Hebrew God 4,000 years ago. Yet in the ages long before then, the true gods, who are your ancient parent creators, came here from all parts of existence. Their seeds, their ideas have transmitted throughout all the time, and traces of their existence can still be found in most places on the planet: North and South America, Australia, Indonesia, Asia, India, Europe, and Africa. The land masses have changed and moved over time. You believe these gradual shifts and changes, yet today the theory of gradualism is losing favor because Earth is dancing with changes on geophysical and energetic levels. No one quite knows what to make of the changes because in most cases you choose to believe the official line of truth. Your perceptual experience indicates gradual change as a rule, and you cannot even imagine the knowledge that your ancestors accessed. They knew that sudden, shocking, and surprising changes can occur in an instant, and in that regard you cannot make contingent plans. Although your distant ancestors understood the use of their brain to a greater degree than you do, that is not to say they had full brain capacity. They simply utilized the right and the left brain in a more balanced way as a survival tool. Over the last few thousand years, you have been discovering from using the right or intuitive side of your brain, you have slowly become linear and left-brain orientated. Western civilization, where this bias is more widespread, is now branching out as a great empire around the globe, spreading its left-brain orientation that is disconnected from common sense and from the meaningful relationships with existence. Riddled with family secret and secret societies, Western civilization is filled with lies, deceit, and manipulations that are only possible because you have lost the balance influence of the greater self. Because of this balance, your methods of dating time, including the carbon dating systems, are errant. You are not taking any factors into account, such as many energies have the ability to shift and move through time. Time is not static. It is an ever-flowing river, ongoing and changing, yet holding its own integrity. Can you understand the integrity of the drop of rain in the river? It mixes and blends, yet it is always itself. Or is it? If it is part of the whole, can the drop be accessed in any part of the river? We want to stretch your imagination so that you understand the hologram, where the whole can be stored in a part. Imagine a creature, a being so intelligent, alive, intense, that it is everywhere at once. In essence, is pure and responds to every other aspect of itself. This is a creature that vibrates curiosity, malleability, unique characteristics that allow it to be molded and to mold as well. And you must learn to dance with this energy. One of the prophets of the silver screen of our world, Yoda, calls this creature the Force. It is being alive and intelligent, although this force is benevolent, kind, nurturing, and loving, the most tender being you can imagine. It can also be dynamic and ferocious, dark, compelling, and even evil. It has all the sides. Sometimes you imagine an existence made of all goodness, a golden age where everything is perfect. Do not rule out the wounds of darkness that may take a while to heal. Do not rule out the opportunities to transform from those who are here to be transformed. Many of you would like to take evil and step on it, destroy it like you would a bug, squish, smash, be gone in any reality. This practice of eliminating human life because it is perceived as evil does you no good. In the end, your history and experience are filled with a war of one kind or another, humans fighting one another for the right to speak their truth and share their perceptions. And one human or another is always wanting to suppress someone else's idea, someone else's thinking. This activity has been a foundation principle at the core of your being. Today you must learn to respect the spiritual integrity of others, a raindrop acknowledging the river by claiming your own inner authority and developing your own character from it. As you learn to explore your psychic self, you will understand that connectivity comes with telepathy, and that the gods have always used telepathic communication with humans. Remember that during the Aryan Age, the gods were portrayed in a form of huge statues and monuments, all great structures of stone. The builders understood the importance of spirit and knew how to use sound to build these great structures depicting the gods. In the age of Pisces, God became invisible and was pronounced no longer telepathic connected to you. If you claim otherwise, you were burned at the stake and locked away in a dungeon. Telepathy appears to be the dangerous potential lurking in your genes, yet your distant ancestors used it to see into another point of time, to travel out of body and view the now, the past, the future simultaneously, to travel on the river of time. They understood sound and the power of the mind and conversed with the gods. However, the gods tricked them, as the gods often do, and the human gave their power away and worshipped the gods rather than finding a place of equality among them. And what is our place of equality with the gods? You may ask. How will we ever be equal with the gods? Must we develop our telepathic clairvoyant skills or telekinetic skills? It is easier than that. Your task is to vibrate with love to the best of your ability. Love your friends, love yourself in nurturing and harmonious, and be at peace. This is in itself is a great feat, one most of your ancestors never quite seemed to achieve. However, some of them did pass the test, creating what you would call utopia. Where does utopia dwell? Could utopia dwell in the timeline of Earth that you know? It is possible to build a utopia, or would it simply arise of its own nature because of a natural tendency to rise to a higher frequency? Everything changes when you start to emit your own frequency rather than absorbing the frequency around you. When you start imprinting your intent on the universe rather than receiving an imprint of blueprint from existence, you are in the 25th year window where humankind is at a testing ground, choosing a probable road in the great book of Earth. Your ancestors had similar tasks, and now at this point, you too have many roads from which to choose. We ask you to develop yourself along the lines of the whole being, with both male and female energies in balance with the right and left side of your brain. Using the fully vitality of who you are, imagine that everything your ancestors have been is stored within you, for it is with this knowledge that you must proceed forwards. And that's where I always say you gotta go inside, you gotta find what is really there. Only you can live it and share it and try to help others understand, because they gotta find theirs. Your ancestors prior to the Pleiadian cycle tracked the movements of the planets and appreciated the opportunities the heavens herald. They knew the intelligent beings visit periodically, and often that these beings were far superior to the local humans at the time. You are watched, you are maintained. We have suggested that 26,000 years may be equivalent to 1 year to some beings. This does not mean they are greater than you, it means they view reality from another perspective. These beings are, in your term, multidimensional and know how to exist in a number of flows or calendars of time. Most of you mark time by Gregorian calendar, which was created less than 400 years ago. At the time, the Pope and other authorities of Western world made adjustments and located all of the holidays at equinox, solstice, cross-quarter days. Slowly, the markers of cycle times were replaced with the Christian icons, who now intercede for you with the gods. Even though the older meanings of cyclical time vanish, knowledge of it still held deep within yourselves. It is there. You must, however, stretch further back in time and find an even deeper meaning. Why did your ancestors mark time in this way? What was inside them that helped them balance the earth? Could it be the balance between the logical mind, the intuitional self, that you so need to develop as you enter the 21st century? Your ancestors lived further back than the calendar you count and the few ages we speak of. They knew that sudden changes would happen at the beginning or ending of an age, and that the age marched backwards in the zodiac to create a great cycle of time. Throughout the great year of the 26,000-year procession of equinox, cycles keep moving and changing. The existence keeps expanding, everywhere available and present. The gods, in their need to experiment with it and observe you, separate you. This is why you have various races on the planet. You come from genetic families seated by coalitions, agreements, and committees of various stellar beings. Therefore, you are considered to be biological storehouses by some. Many view you as laboratory mice to be studied, shifted, and changed. This does not elicit a very pleasant feeling, does it? There are also those who view you with kindness of intention, the kindest intention, and who watch you flourish and accept you for who you are. Some see you as children who need parenting, and they are here to support you, not to punish you. They want to help you learn your lessons with kindness, as loving parents idly would. They are like parents who find the importance to spend time with their children, to communicate directly with them as the ancients did, rather than to park them in front of electronic teleteachers as modern parents do. In this 25th period, people from cultures all over the globe, from the genetic strains, will begin to realize that you now live within a window of opportunity, a fleeting moment. For you, this period elongates seconds to minutes to hours to days. It is one of the unique features of this time. Linear thinking and linear experience trap you as a rule of time, whereas multidimensional perceptions allow you to be in many lines and flows of time. Time can flow fast, slow, or not at all. Those you call gods, goddesses, are multidimensional, as were some of your ancestors. However, in the management of mind, fear was chosen, and multidimensional living was abdicated. At the end of one age and beginning of another, many dilemmas arise, and the tools for living, for continuing civilization and continuing yourselves are questioned. Today you are challenged to re-establish your high cultures where life was once again valued, where mother and father are honored, because it is through their joining that all of you are born. When you begin to value your biological being, you will understand there is such a fine spirit within you, more valuable than anything you will ever create. a spirit that is priceless, a flame of light like a jewel, an emerald or a diamond, with so many glittering facets that it seems to grow as you observe it. This is who you are, priceless. Yet you keep forgetting your value, or else you refuse to believe it and say, "This is not in the books of history, therefore you must be kidding us." You even think we must be buttering you up, sweet-talking you. Human, priceless? Yes, you. Reality mirrors itself in creators we ask you to contemplate is in all things. It diversifies and allows itself to be everything, everything that ever was and everything that ever will be. This vastness is really a unified field of love, and when you really comprehend this fact, you will relax into living. When you build the foundations of your development with these principles and live them each day, you will truly be inheriting and claiming your pricelessness. However, do not expect everything to be done for you. One of the most generous aspects of the creative force is to allow you to develop in a way you choose, to feel isolated or to feel connected. Whichever you want, the creative force is you, an intelligent, biological, very present being seeking out the place you want and the times that excite you. In age long past, civilization sometimes existed for hundreds of thousands of years, and there were others that lasted much longer. Utopian civilizations are etched in the annals of your memories and in ancient mystery records that are kept by their societies. Your ancestors continued to quietly write down these histories. They hid the ancient knowledge in art, music, and carvings in stone. Utopia, as you consider them, would be a place where humans and multidimensional beings came to interact and work out the plan, where a certain harmonic frequency would be established. More often on your world, you destroy one another. You merge and blend through wars and conquests, where you punish those at the bottom of the ladder or destroy the one batch of humans to make another batch feel important. There has always been a possibility to blend peacefully, but you rarely choose it. Some choose it, of course. Otherwise, you would annihilate one another, yet your history is full of dead civilizations. The utopias, though, are more alive. Although anything can be located on the stream of time, the utopia does not come to an end. They could eventually stop, although sometimes the collective energies of the utopias learn to manage their frequencies so well that they keep integrating more and more energies. As they continue to vibrate, they appear, from your point of view, to literally disappear. They raise their frequencies to compatibility and compassion, form of tolerance, to a place where they see the perfection of light and dark. They would certainly not be all light in your terms. However, they have integrated the so-called dark side and continuously work to transmute it. They allow a doorway of healing for the dark energies to enter into their world, and the dark energies come to be transmuted. Is this not an interesting concept? I hope this is really helping you to think. This example could be considered a form of utopia, a place that continuously exists in a state of non-judgment. Now you must say to yourself, goodness, if this utopian place is filled with light and they allow a porthole of dark to jump in, will they turn everything to light? This is an important point to ponder. How much darkness is there to transmute? How much so-called evil is there in existence? What does darkness ever need to be transmuted? If darkness swirls itself into light, what does the light swirl itself into? Perhaps these utopian cultures recycle light and dark into each other and have found a balance. Today you are also faced with the finding a balance. As you explore the depths of spirit, some of you only want to find the good stories and tales of light. The great healing victories need to take place on earth. You have the potential to achieve and transmit the frequencies of love. which will change everything, unify existence, and serve as a mirror of the great Creator. This is your potential now. If you would each send out a thought wave of intelligent creation from the vortex of Earth into all of existence, it would make a difference. Let everyone and everything know that love is possible and that you're truly alive and proud of it. When you are unified as humankind, the doors will open so that you can meet the rest of your family as equals, with your total psychic connection switched on, so no possibilities of deceit, chicanery or whatever, or deception can occur. We ask you to grasp this possibility, to go into your spirit and seed the core of your being with a new probability among the many threads of choices. Choose the one where you decide to be priceless, where knowing many things you live in complete comfort and relaxation. Within the vibration of love, the purpose of the plan and its connections become more apparent. And then you can know that the darkness really inspires the light. It outlines it, giving it form and definition. To be more at ease with who you are, picture the numerical 8 resting on its side and laying over your eyes, with a balance flowing of the energy moving from side to side, from one side to the other. When you want to know something, picture this figure over your eyes and send energy around and around. Then see yourself at the cross point. Ask a question, focus. See what comes to you. This is a technique from the Book of Earth that your ancestors used. They would balance both sides of the brain, then focus their attention in the area you call the third eye. Use the power of your spark of life to imagine and create and remember your ancestors. Do indeed speak through your blood. This and other hidden mysteries have been used as foundations of many secret societies. From within psychic abilities, secrets can be kept. In order to stop the secrecy of deceit on earth, each of you must be willing to claim your great inheritance, your ability to feel. Have compassion for the ancestors of the last 1,000 years, whose fear imprinting you now carry as a great armor. Remember, the test of all ages is always about the choice between producing the frequency of fear and the frequency of love. Perhaps you will become one of those utopian worlds, a place in the mind where only a specific frequency can enter. No time jumpers, no matter how powerful or how accurate their set of coordinates, can ever enter a utopian timeline. The lines are, in your terms, sacrosanct, secret, and only the proper vibrations allowing entry. This is an important concept for you to understand, because for the time you can create this vibration, this frequency on earth, you must learn to find what you have in common with one another and then to unify. You will learn that what appears to tyrannize you from the inside or outside is really there to test you. What frequencies will you produce? Who will you be? Once you learn to produce a frequency of love and learn to maintain and continue to be self-sustained by it, will you share it with others? Or will you write of its secrets in your books, or some of your ancestors did, and keep it hidden away? Within the various continental structures around your globe, there lies many old artifacts, many clues and opportunities to understand a fuller picture of your origins. Artifacts have been uncovered over time, and many of them do not fit within your sequence view of the past. As we have said, you have developed linear thinking and shut off the knowledge and knowing of cyclical living, which not only punctuates the heavens with meanings, but also serves to better describe time as flowing like a river, moving and moving and moving. Some artifacts appear to be mistakes, anachronisms found where they have been no business being, and yet there they are. These out-of-time objects range from footprints of humans preserved in stone next to dinosaur prints, to gigantic human footprints and skeleton forms 20 feet tall and more, of vases and cups, batters, jewelry, and spherical balls, to name a few. All kinds of devices have been found buried in the earth as people mined the minerals, excavated ruins, and just built roads. Sometimes these objects were found because someone was hunting for antiques. At other times they appeared as if by magic. Some were even found embedded in layers of stone millions of years old. These discoveries, of course, are not announced in your newspaper. The idea of sophisticated objects like that are manufactured today being found buried in layers of earth millions of years old does not compute with you. You are blinded by your beliefs, which shut you down. You are in a state of denial. As humankind, you have been programmed to exist in this mind-controlled state. The more you believe in only a linear world, anything and everything exists outside your timeline will be blanked out. You dismiss them, filing them away in the never land of unfounded notions, and think, this is not what I was taught or what I was told. Now these objects are studied, of course, and sometimes turned over to museums and collectors of out-of-time objects. Where do you feel the objects come from? Actually, the earth is billions of years old, and civilizations have been here from the beginning, seated and guided by various celestial beings who experience time from different perspectives. And then there are time jumpers who can move from one section of time to another. These time jumpers go into time to change history, but as we have said, not every slice of time is available to them. You are travelers on your planet, yet you cannot go everywhere. Every time you travel somewhere new, you must have the proper currency and learn the language and custom. There are many factors involved when you travel around your planet, yet for time jumpers, there are even more considerations. They have multidimensional views of your world and all of existence. They are not linear like you. Linear beings often have their circuits blown when they experience a time jumping. On your planet, people have walked down the street and slipped into another time, space and time, sometimes onto the opposite side of the globe from where they were. People can shift dimensionally easy, though it is not common. However, the experience is certainly more common than you realize. Many people have these experiences and do not speak of them because they are frightened. In the early times when there was less freedom of expression, if someone spoke of such a thing, they were locked up and called crazy. The shift from linear to multidimensional living is stretching each of you. So allow yourself to shift gears if it occurs and say, oh yes, I can be me, never losing the integrity of myself when I simultaneously view and participate in another reality. This can be done with your biological being. Time jumpers come in all shapes and sizes with varieties from every aspect of existence. Certainly on Earth, there are time jumpers in the time in which you live, late 20th, early 21st century Earth. People have been altering time on your planet for ages. Although your current time experiments are the outgrowth of the activity that began, as we mentioned about 100 years ago, there have always been those who could use their minds to tinker with electromagnetic energies and affect time. Where would they get these ideas, you may ask? Remember, the invisible are all around you. Multidimensional beings are in your world. You think the gods have gone away? Remember, we said they are simply taking a nap or actually playing a game of peekaboo with you. Over time, people become terrified their inner abilities and no longer had the natural telepathic link with the gods. You must bridge the gap while simultaneously learning to bridge the gap in your mind from the right to the left side of the brain. A sense of whole being and living will result, allowing you once again to communicate with your creator, your coherent, your family and friends simultaneously. You will deal with electromagnetic signals, the energy of the invisible, sorts used to confuse and stop the great awakening of your abilities and claiming your pricelessness. It is true. A great battle exists, the fight for the soul, spirit, and body of humankind. For the core of your being is so vital that many seek it, keeping you in ignorance and most particularly in linear thinking, forcing you to produce the frequency of fear rather than the frequency of your own natural biological inheritance unique to you, which is the vitality of love. Love is not stored anywhere quite like it is stored in you, because you are part of a library and are a priceless experiment as well. You come from beings who seem to expand worlds, who create universes, beings so clever that all time exists for them at once. They charter time and they leave clues as tidbits of knowledge stored away just in case they might need them. This is not so different from your customs of storing away money for a rainy day. Like squirrels storing their nuts for the winter, the gods store their stuff, they stash it away, hide it so they could have it when they need it. They are not so different from you, you know. In actuality, as we look at the Book of Earth, you are all related, and so they are to you. Yet in order to really understand these tales, you must separate for a while, because of what you created, the whole separation of us and them. Ideally, by the end of your tale, you will have combined everything, coalesced it all, with great depth and breadth, a sign of relaxation, knowing the pieces of the puzzle your life fit. Hidden meanings will then become apparent, and disconnectedness you formerly felt will be gone. As your living weaves into significance, the level of stress you live within is reduced. The family of light you are required to know and understand a panoramic view of existence that at times that few humans can grasp and maintain. The Book of Earth will come alive in your eyes, in your memories, in your bellies. Your belly is thought to be your body's second brain. Actually, it is the body's primary brain. Begin to trust your belly. Imagine that your intuitive part of yourself feels from there. You must learn to use all of the brain in your cranial area as well as the brain in your belly. The feeling place where you identify and relate to the outside world. This is the key to producing frequencies of love. If you do not permit yourself to be honest with yourself and to deal honestly with the simple things in life, then how can you produce love instead? You will produce resentment because you will not mean what you say. Do you understand? By naming and dealing with the feelings that arise in your center, you can always move back to love by addressing what is really occurring. Your ancestors faced this challenge many times as they dealt with the gods who came here and wanted to be a force of change for humanity, or humans, always. As we have said, fear, war, anger, victimhood, bloody death, and killing, rape, pillaging, power over others seem to be the path chosen. You stand at the gates of these tests once again. Remember the Roman Empire bridged age of Aquarius or Aries and the age of Pisces. The Christed figure you revere as a point of time, there were others before and after who brought opportunities either for control or to set you free. You will never find your spirit, dear friends, inside of a structure. The structures you build to gather in and sing into the heavens or to perform your rituals of experience cannot contain the vastness inside you. These tabernacles you call religious structures in actuality trap spirit. They serve as great generators where you give your spirit away and send your energy to something else. Steeples and crosses act as antennas, you know. Understand the bridges you are building to the 21st century must be one where you raise your frequency. Call in the abilities of your ancestors. Your bloodline is rich and wide varieties of who you are. You can also call on your ancestors as colleagues and friends. Many multidimensional beings come here now, some in friendship and others in deceit, because you are confused. Humans cannot be labeled and categorized into one behavioral type. Some of you are quite aggressive and others more than kind. Many of the beings come here to feel your vibration, to test you and become integrated by you. They do not mean for you to fear them. When you choose to fear, you stop the flow of energy, and those who work with you because your powers ends where your fear begins. You must learn to manage your own fear and to manage your own moments by being in them. You will manage your own body by deciding what you are is rightfully yours. Then you can change. Within your spirit, the deepest part of yourself, the core identify, exists that you must learn to access. The territory may appear to be dark night of the soul, where you will have to really examine this lifetime and full retune of your emotions. Perhaps other lifetimes will be included as well. As the line of time opens and you claim your psychic inheritance, relinquishing the fears of your ancestors, remember that you are part of the celestial family who both cherish and ignores you. A family where some would do anything to extend your existence and others would destroy you in the blink of an eye. All of this is the great Creator allows. Now imagine the bridge and see all of these beings drawn to you. Feel this happening inside the core of your being and imagine a flame of light inside yourself that never goes out. Use the act of breathing to activate the flame. See the powerful energy inside yourself that connects you with everything, with the vibration of love. The attention you place on your breath allows you to relax, to be in the now, and expand your field into many nows. It is very important for many of you as possible to grasp the great task ahead in the larger book of existence. This is just another task. However, in the book of Earth, it is a big task. In the days of your life and in the moments that you all live, it is a galactic task, and yet you are not alone. Now breathe your vibration into your field. Breathe your common sense, your connection, your calmness, your love into your lungs and into your will, your power, your intent. By the strength of your spirit arise the deepest cores of your being. Use the power of your mind to think for yourself, to discern reality, and to call the words of your own command. I made it. Surprise, yeah. And call the words of your own command into being. Speak, manifest, live, dear friends, your true selves. The elasticity of reality is quite malleable. As Yoda said, the forces both obey and commands. Which will you do? Will you be commandeered by the forces of electromagnetic change and swept into the late 20th century Earth and affect all of existence? Or will you take your power and stand facing the storm, creating what you desire as you breathe in the power of the wind and feel it blow across your skin and through your hair? With the power of your will and your strength, with your intent and your desire, you can use the power of the changing times, the storm of Earth and the coming cosmic storm, as energy, as fuel to change your world. The storms may appear to be here to destroy you. In actuality, they unplug the system and control basics of electronics and interdimensional tyranny and dark occultism. Wizardry gone bad. The darker energy chases you and would do anything to divert this great power that arises in you. Yet it is dealing with the darkness that you find your power. Otherwise, dear friends, we see in the book of Earth that many have been lazy, many have chosen fear, or simply turned their backs on the great opportunity. And so the shadows that chases you actually defines your light. As you develop into your being, the core of yourself, be willing to face what is there. Do not judge it. Rather unify and become one, understanding that your shadow, as it unfolds on your planet, is there for a purpose. to heal and integrate you and take you into a greater responsibility of creating a utopia, perhaps. Yes, perhaps out of the late 20th century Earth will spring forth one of the most rarest of gems in the celestial records, a utopia, a civilization so highly evolved that all life is valued, where everything everyone does is completely valued and honored. Here the balance of existence, the yin and yang, the light and the dark, the black and the white, the day and the night, is seen in divine protection, divine perfection, and so it is.